This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
All right. Hey, welcome to another episode in the famous War Room today. And today I have Claire with me today. And thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I always say I suck at introducing people. So, hey, at least I know I can admit it at least. So take like 30 seconds and just introduce who you are and what your superpower is.
Cool. Sounds good. Hey, it's always funny when you sit there and you're listening to somebody giving the spiel about you and you're like, oh boy, what do I do here?
How am I going to live up to that?
I know. Or even like, is it me? I'm not sure. So hi, my name is Claire, Claire Milligan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Aimably. We help companies understand what they're spending on the cloud costs. So it's like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, helping save money on that. My background was in product design. I came up as a designer, was trained as a designer, worked in tech companies, and kind of got picked by private equity owners to think through what it would be like to join the ranks of an operations leader and a management leader and put my heart and soul into it, and then kind of fell backwards into starting a company, really. So I like to think that my superpower is taking really complex questions that are very tangled up, knotted issues, and kind of pulling at the threads until I can see a structure and a clarity, and then communicating that clarity back to other people and giving people direction and where to go.
Yeah. I love accidental businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, the honest to God's truth is most of those are the ones that make it.
I mean, you at least know why you're doing it. You can't not, in our case, I was asked to take a subsidiary of the business I worked at before that I was in charge of and transition its operational style from growth focused to a cash cow. And so we really had to question everything. And the biggest thing to question was how much we were spending on AWS. And so realizing how terribly difficult that was made it so it was like an aha moment. We can go out on our own and do this.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love businesses that are born out of necessity.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I always like to kick off the show and do a big rewind in life, right? And I like to do that because we can learn a lot through your story, right? So, I'm curious, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
I come from a family of family business people.
Okay.
So, and also my parents were introduced by their parents who served together on the California Bankers Association. So very nerdy in that sense. On my dad's side of the family, we came over from France to California in the late 1800s and started a bank, kind of escaping persecution over there. And then on my mom's side of the family, German immigrants, and also going into banking. My grandfather on my dad's side started in the mailroom, actually not even a teller at the bank. And by the time he retired, he was chairman of the board. So I have immense respect for him and others in my family who have just kind of taken this approach of, well, here's where I am. Here's what I can do. Here's how I can add. Here's how we can be more. And I really see a lot of similarities in how I approach what I'll do next, or even creating my own company in that kind of same thought process of not feeling like there's a ceiling there and just continuing to push.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not banking, but farming. That was how I grew up in my family. And, we immigrated over from Germany. So that's kind of the same little storyline there. But I was that kid in school that, sold candy and did all that side. I don't remember if I had a lemonade stand, but did you have a lemonade stand?
I definitely had a lemonade stand, but I lived on a street where no one stopped, so I just stood out there all day.
Drank your own lemonade.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one more step to Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's awesome. That's cool. Well, looking at like histories of like most, entrepreneurs, business owners, and those kind of things, there's always kind of like the same mainstay storyline behind it, right? Of either like really, really high performance sports, military, immigration, stuff like that. And, I mean, that had to have like shaped your whole storyline.
Absolutely. I mean, I had there's like the earliest drawing that my parents saw from me was a drawing of a car and then a briefcase in front of the car, indicating that's what I would be when I would grow up, which would be my dad. Like, so I very much was connected to
Nice.
like this is kind of my destiny in a way because it was very
Hmm.
family oriented and my dad worked for the family. He was running this bank still at the time. It's all these descendants of our family were a part of, but he was kind of taking the ownership on his shoulders. And interesting, you're saying that farming because our specialty was actually agricultural lending. So in the
Oh,
community that we're from, it's very agriculture focused. We currently farm the majority of strawberries for the globe, let alone the United States. And at the time when my
wow.
family's first getting started here, it was lima beans. So the whole process of understanding what's the weather, what's going on, like what's the business, who do you loan to and why, getting to understand, the particulars of who you'd be working for and really thinking of yourself in service to other people because
Hmm.
really when you're in commercial lending that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to facilitate other people. But it gave me a very much a sense of duty and wanting to make good on both what I felt like was my family's history and then also my community at large. I moved back to the town I grew up in 2 years ago. Even though I'm still in tech, I'm in a small town in California, just kind of continuing to pursue that vision of um, giving back, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's so important, right? I always say doing good is just good business, right? So,
Absolutely.
and that give back, you know, I was talking at an event a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about cause marketing, right?
Hmm.
And cause marketing is huge, right?
Hmm.
So instead of just doing marketing, do cause marketing, right?
Yeah, but it
Be,
rings hollow if it's not authentic, right? It has to be
oh,
true
that's
to your
true.
core.
That's right. And you know, there's so many aspects of somebody asked me, was it yesterday, about how do nonprofits affect the business world, right?
Mhm.
And when you think about that, right? Well, if businesses don't support nonprofits, then nonprofits don't support the community, and then the community can't give back by supporting the businesses. So
Yes.
it's like this ecosystem that has to run,
Yeah,
constantly
yin and
run.
yang of the economy, really.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you think about it. But gosh, why tech? Why was that something you really wanted to get? I mean, it's
I
not
don't
a
know.
it's not a far stretch from banking, but it's kind of a far stretch from
It's
banking.
kind of, yeah, no, so I went to college in the Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I
Mm,
graduated like right after the dot-com bust. And
mm,
so it was very odd. Facebook and Google were just coming out. You had to have a 4.0 to get a job at Google, but if your job at Google, it was literally scanning websites for porn. I mean, it was just
jeez,
abominable work.
right.
And so I didn't really want to be anything to do with tech. And I, thought that the weirdos over partying in that house at Facebook were odd. So, so I really didn't think I was going into tech or even like apps at the time, where it was like the App Store really was coming out. And I decided to go back to school and get a degree in design because I really had no idea what I was doing. Um, and then design turned into designing software, and then designing software turned into clients wanting to hire me. And, that's how I kind of also fell backwards into tech. I find it really interesting, but more from a business operations standpoint, and that it's an interesting problem to solve. I spent a lot of time in product management, which is just like, how do we build, what do we build, when do we build, for what features. And people are pretty self-important about like how cool their business is or what their tech does. But when you're really sitting down and solving people's problems, like what are they really trying to accomplish? It becomes pretty interesting to me, at least, but less about the bits and bytes and binary stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated with tech too. I just could never like literally work in tech, but I'm fascinated in what tech does.
Yeah.
And I love playing dumb anyway with the mic because I would say, as far as tech goes, I don't do too bad with the tech stuff actually, but I love playing stupid with people that are really techie, and then I can call their bullshit a little bit.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
I know just enough to be dangerous,
Yes.
actually.
Yep. I feel that way about accounting.
But it's fun calling people's BS, man. I gotta tell you, it's just insane. Sometimes the people that the stuff people throw out and think you should believe that stuff, it's crazy.
Well, what's your worst story? Like, what's the craziest thing that someone tried to get you to believe?
That WordPress was going out of business for sure. That was
Oh.
that was because they were trying to get me to switch to some other platform, right? I was like,
Yeah. Well,
really?
it turns out Automatic, the company that owns them, is doing phenomenally. So,
Yeah,
jokes on them.
right. I mean, everybody knows that they're having their issues, right?
Yes.
But still, I mean, there's way too many people on that platform for them to just go, yeah, well, we're just gonna shut it off today.
Yeah, no. And what's cool about them is that they're a really cool case study as a business, Automatic is,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
they go about things very differently. They're not just all growth. They think about long-term vision and community and all
Mm.
that stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff for sure. No doubt. Well, hey, just a lot of lessons came out of what we just talked about for sure. Um, but I want to get like your top three things since you've been in business that you could share with a young founder so they could miss some arrows in the back. What would be three things that you'd love to share?
Number one, raising money and having money in the bank is equal parts good and bad. A lot of people are like, well, if people just give me money, then I can start a business. And it is emotionally, at least for me, difficult as I consider beyond my own decision or my own employment or whatever, the duty I have to the people who have chosen to invest in us. And so it's a much
Mm,
larger thing. And I think it's a decent burden to carry, that you don't
sure.
really think about having when you get into it. Another piece that I feel like I thought I could translate what I knew in a larger business and be like, I know how to build products. I know sales and marketing. No problem. I'm just going to hire salespeople, give them quotas, and everything's going to be great. Guess what? When nobody's heard of you, nobody can make their quota. It's just the way it is. So
It's
you
true.
have to go out and do all of the work first yourself, which worked out fine for my personality type, but it was definitely a big shift in gears where I was like, okay, I need to understand, address, figure it out myself first, and then hire. Um, and then the third thing is that your personal identity is deeply tied to the business. What people think of you as an individual has a lot to do with what they think of your business. Even if they're trying out your free app on wherever they want to download it, they're still interested in your origin story because they're taking a risk on you. You're a very new business, and what do they say? Nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM. So they're really risking it on you.
It's funny because IBM headquarters is right here where I live.
Oh, nice.
And speaking of IBM, but it's funny because it used to be IBM. That's all that it was. Huge sign said IBM before COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you drive by there. I don't care what day it is. There's nobody there. The
Yeah.
the parking lot's completely empty. Now it's two great big names, and IBM is like really small.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
so they must have like sold out most of the building, rented out most of the building, and now they just have just a little chunk of it.
Well,
So
kudos to them that they found buyers because I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
there's other places where they haven't filled out.
yeah. I mean, and it's a huge complex. I mean, they have a solar array, and it's probably about 50 acres.
Wow.
It's huge. It's massive. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It's funny watching the progression or recession of
Hmm.
these big Fortune 50s and hundreds or whatever they are. I don't even know, but um, hey, the Titans can get knocked down too.
They sure can. And they'll also find a way to call back up.
Yeah, they will. Well, that's a whole nother story for sure. But yeah, good. Thanks for sharing those lessons, and I'm sure people will get a lot out of that. Um, how do you want people to reach out to you?
Sure. I am in a lot of different sites as Claire Milligan, Clairemilligan. My social handles on a few different sites is also Claire Designs. I'm somewhat opinionated on Medium. I love it when people interact with my content and let me know what they think. Disagreements welcome. And my business is Aimably, AIMABLY.com.
Awesome. What's Medium?
Medium is a site for people to write long form journalism, but it's not necessarily
Ah,
it's like pre-Substack, I guess.
mm, hmm, hmm. Okay. So it's kind of like God, what was before
It's
Facebook?
well, I think it take Tumblr, make it more sophisticated, but leave it on a
Okay.
website.
All right.
Which ironically Tumblr is owned by Automatic too.
That's too funny. Too funny. Well, awesome. Well, hey, I kind of like to end the show with a thought-provoking question. And there is no wrong answer. I've gotten every answer from Jesus to Buddha to puppy dog pals to you name it, right? So, but for you, if you could have invited anybody on the show today, dead or alive, doesn't matter, any point in time in history, who would have you loved to have here and why them?
So I'm the kind of person that loves to go deep on any subject and just get nerdy about it. And there's a few of my passions. One of them is cults, and another one is isolationist governments, for pretty much the same reason, the sociology of it and all. And so when I think about kind of how that all comes together, I would actually pick Madeleine Albright. I
Hmm.
think that her approach to understanding how each person is motivated as a way to solve massive problems, to go from that micro to that macro, I could just sit and listen to that all day long.
Yeah, yeah. Madam Albright. I don't think I've ever heard that one before. That's a good choice, though. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Plus her
Well,
story, like you've come being an immigrant and then serving at the highest ranks of the United States. I think that
yeah.
that's really cool.
Well, here's what I think people, I don't I'm definitely not going to take this political by any means, but I think people forget that we're all immigrants here.
Yes.
All of us are.
Well,
So,
Native Americans. We'll
well,
we
I
will,
mean,
yeah.
they were the indigenous people here.
Yeah.
We're the ones that came here and immigrated here. So,
Yep, exactly.
I think a lot of people forget that sometimes. And I think we need to send that little shot across the bow as a reminder every now and then too.
Yeah, what is it? The Hamilton line, immigrants, we get the job done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm one too.
Yep.
So, and there's very few places in the world that provide at least the opportunity that the United States does. And, you know, it's what this country was founded on. So
We are very lucky.
extremely lucky. So anyway, well, hey, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having
And
me.
yeah, and I always like to say we all have the same 168 hours a week. Thanks for stopping by for 23 and spending some time dropping some good nuggets and bombs on the audience, and look forward to watching your journey too.
Thanks so much. Have a great
All
day.
right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.